Oh, hi Stampers, it's Jackie Bolhuis from Stampers again, and I am back with the next video in my Stamping Basics video series. We've already covered the different types of stamps. We've talked about cutting and scoring cardstock. Today, it's all about ink pads. Does it confuse you as to what ink pads for what and how you use the different pads? That's what we're going to talk about today and get rid of all of that confusion. So let me just turn my camera and then we're going to get started and talk about all the different types of ink pads that Stampin' Up! Sells. Stamp pads, stamp pads, stamp pads. It's crazy. There's so many different ones. Which one do you use when? We're going to go through the main stamp pads that Stampin' Up! Carries, and I'll tell you when to use which one so that you get the best results. First, let's talk about black. Now, Stampin' Up! Has two different blacks. We have the Archival Stampin' Pad and the Memento Black Pad. The Archival one is made to stamp anytime you're going to do just something in black. Okay, it's going to give you the darkest, crispest black image. But it is also necessary if you're going to do any type of watercoloring, whether you're using a blender pen with water or you're using an aqua painter with water in it, or a blender pen, or even the regular Stampin' Write markers, because these are water-based as well. So this will dry permanent, so you don't have to worry about smearing the black or picking up any of the black when you're coloring with these means. Now the other black, Memento, this one is absolutely necessary if you are stamping with the Stampin' Blends. These are alcohol-based markers, and the regular Stampin' Black here will smear, okay, even if it's dry. So use the Memento, and once this one's dry, and with both of these, make sure you give them ample time to dry. But this one will allow you to color with the blends and not worry about any bleeding or picking up any of the black color. So that's the scoop on the two different blacks. Now let's talk about our regular classic stamping pads. A couple of things. I'm sure by now you've probably seen me use these or seen somebody use them, but you know that when these open, we just push here and they flip this way to work with. The reason Stampin' Up! Did that is because you should store your pads upside down. And the way this cover works, it will ensure that your pads are stored upside down when you really are storing them right side up so that you can read them. Now, a little secret that not everybody knows, when you get these pads, on the back will be four stickers. They're in 4 different languages, so find the one for your language, and I just use my little piercing tool to pick it up. But those stickers you're going to want to put on the side of your pad, and that way if your pads are stacked or they're in the pad holder, you'll always be able to see what color it is. Now that does give you 3 more stickers on here that you can use for other things. You can see here I've used all of them. What I like to do is I will peel, and this one I haven't done all of them, so we'll do this. We're going to peel this one up, get a little on there. Okay, and then I'm going to open up my pad, and I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to just snip off the edge of this, and I'm going to put it inside my pad, because this way I know when these pads are open, it makes it just a little bit easier to see what color it is. So that way if you have a bunch of pads open, okay, so we can use the bone folder here and kind of press that down a little bit. So if I have a bunch of these open at one time, it makes it easier to identify what pad they are. The other thing I like to do is take one of those stickers, and this one it says Denim Dandy. Some other country must call it that. It's Dapper Denim to me, but it still works. It allows me, if I'm watercoloring, which I do quite often, we'll have these open like so. Mel and Mambo happen to be the same on 2 of the stickers, but this makes it easy again to not be confused and to remember which colors I have. So that's what you do with those little stickers. The other thing, as long as we're talking pads, I want to show you real quickly how to re-ink these, because I get asked that quite often. So let's go ahead and use this one. You know, whenever I buy an ink pad, I always buy a re-inker because I like to keep them nice and inked up. You know, you'll tell very easily if it's just not as dark and as crisp as you want it. So when it gets to that point, just take your re-inker, and to me the easiest way to do this is I just kind of squeeze this and I rub. You can see how I'm going back and forth, and then I'll go this way You know, just give it some good ink in both directions. Now, because these pads are a foam, and you can see they're raised up, but they're squishy, okay? Raised up is good because that way I can ink any size stamp. It can kind of go over the edge there, and I'm not, you know, some ink pads, the ink portion is down inside the plastic, so you can't do a big stamp. But the ink just seems to sit wherever you put it. So I like to use a bone folder, and I'm just going to go back and forth with my bone folder after I've put ink on it. And that just helps spread that ink out really nice and get it all over. Yep, it makes your ink or your bone folder dirty, but this is kind of a dedicated one I use for this. But I can just wipe it off and most of that ink comes off. Now, as long as we have this out, every once in a while you'll have a stamp pad that seems too juicy. It's just, you go to ink it up and you're getting way too much ink on your stamps. It's just over inked. You can use your bone folder in that case too. And what I actually do is just take it and push all the ink to one side. Seems really weird, but it does work because it'll take some of that surface ink that's giving you grief, push it all down there, and now this should not be as juicy, and you should be able to ink up your stamp and get a better image. So those are a few tips for the regular Stampin' pads. And then the last pad I want to talk about is the Versamark. This one is what you need to use for embossing, and we'll have a whole Stampin' Basics video on embossing, but that's what this pad is all about. So if you want to do some heat embossing and get some beautiful raised images, this is the pad you're going to need for that. Now, one thing I did not cover in the Stampin' Basics video about stamps was when you get your stamps, now especially on the rubber ones, and if it's a real bold image. So this is our Just Add Text set, but you can see this one, how it's a really bold. Sometimes you might struggle getting this inked up really, really good. It just won't, the ink won't take to it or kind of bubbles up on it. What I always do with these big bold stamps is when I get them, before I use them the first time, I will take a sanding block. Now this is one Stampin' Up! Used to sell, but that doesn't matter. And it's just a fine grit sandpaper on here, so any sandpaper will work. Actually, an emery board works really good too. And I take this and I'm going to rough up my stamp. You are not going to hurt it, but I kind of go in circles and I go that way, and then I go ahead and I use my Stampin' Mist and I spray that. And I'll just use a rag and wipe it off. But that will get all the, it's almost like it's a little coating that's on your stamps from the manufacturing process. And once you do this, it will stamp way easier for you and you'll get a really nice image. So that's just more of a stamp tip than a stamp pad tip. So well, there you go. I hope that helps you with some of the confusion over what stamp pad to use when. So we've covered inks, we've covered stamps, we've covered cardstock. Next week, I think we're going to cover adhesives because there's so many of them. And again, which one do you use when? So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any, and that you'll be able to continue on this series with me as I try to teach you all the basics to make stamping quick, easy, and fun. Any questions? Make sure you get a hold of me. I am a full-time Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I've been for over 23 years now, and I would love to help you with any stamping needs that I can. If you're looking for a demonstrator, I would be honored to be that person. Just let me know if you need a catalog. I'd be happy to send you one and help you in any way that I can. So see you again next week with another Stamping Basics video. And in the meantime, I've got some great cards to share with you. So make sure you visit and subscribe to my blog as well. Have a stamp happy day.